Okay, well, welcome. We have a very amazing special guest here today, and we've got Tessa Malcarne, who was my brain retraining coach. So I'm super excited to have her. And the reason why this is all happening is because Tessa and I have kept in touch from way back when. And we would, get together from time to time and talk about coaching topics from the perspective as a coach. And we would have such great conversations. I was like, we need to have these conversations with the rest of the people listening to them, because they're so good to hear, a couple coaches talk about the I can't speak right now, talk about
intricacies.
Yeah, that word. My brain is like half dead right now. About, this world of healing and the stuff we wish we could share. And a lot of time, Tessa had worked for DNS for a while, and she had so much more to share than just what she probably was sharing as DNRS. And now she's outside of DNRS, so she can hopefully speak even more about her experiences. And so today we thought we would start by talking about perfectionism. And I'm just going to pass the baton over to Tessa about why this topic is important to you and what you're wanting to talk about. And then you guys will have an opportunity to ask her questions, and we can just kind of have a very casual discussion from there. So Tessa, take over.
Okay. So as Kathleen and I were discussing what the topic for the call should be, we came to this idea that we would talk about the perfectionism we see when it comes to specific retraining programs, other modalities of healing, and how a lot of times we see our clients just really hyper focused on, I have to do this program this specific way. I have to use this modality of healing in this very specific way, the way it was designed, the way it's instructed, or else I'm not going to heal. And so, I see that so often. It's a question so often with my clients that a client is in panic mode because something about a program or a modality of healing is not working for them. They're not doing it specifically like the instructional video said, so they're not going to heal. And clients just, panicking to me because they have now low self-worth. They're embarrassed because they're not doing it like all of their retraining friends are doing it. They're self-conscious. They feel wrong. And it's just not true. So that's why Dr. Kat and I have come together to kind of message this, because we see it so often. Do you want to say anything before I move on to my personal experience, Kathleen?
I think that's great. Go ahead, continue forward.
Okay. So if you have coached with me before, I may have mentioned this, I may not have, it may never have come up, but I never adhered to any specific program the exact way that it was instructed. I never felt pressured to either. I always focused on the science behind what I was doing. It's the science behind the program, the science behind the modality of healing. I would take that science and I would adapt it to work for me. I did like my own research. I wanted to know why it worked on the brain, what it was doing. And I didn't worry so much about what it was supposed to do for other people or the way specifically it was meant to be used, because I don't know, it was just my personality. I just never felt that it was necessary. So I needed the science. I needed to understand what was happening in my brain. And once I understood that, I saw that what was needed in order to heal was different for me than it was for other people. But in general, it's no stress, no drama, more joy, right? More calm, peace in my heart, new associations. And if I had done a specific program exactly how it was designed, then I never would have found what worked for me specifically. Do you want to say anything, Kathleen, about
No,
any of that?
yeah, I think I love that you're describing that you recognize that you needed to take your own sovereignty around your retraining. Like you had some foresight there that, you know, you needed to make it work for you. And I think
Mhm.
that's really rare and pretty incredible, because ultimately, like, we're all scared. We want to be told what to do. And we kind of go into this like young version that's like, tell me exactly what to do. And then of course you can't do it
Yes.
perfectly. And then that puts you even more into stress that you're failing again.
Yes. 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 Exactly. And I think a part of this is I did this program like probably 9 years ago now. So there was not the online community presence that there is now, right? Back then, I was pretty much on an island by myself. And now there's all these WhatsApp groups and there's forums and there's reviews and there's videos. I didn't have any of that. So I was by myself. Um, and I think that ultimately really did allow me to become a much better coach. So I'm glad that it happened the way it did. But I was definitely on an island by myself, which led me to kind of figuring things out on my own. Um, so just to kind of dive into why it doesn't work to use programs and modalities of healing the exact way that they're designed. When you think about, if we look at it from kind of like a bird's eye view, right? We take ourselves out of the picture for a second, forget about your own experiences, and just look at retraining programs and modalities of healing from a bird's eye view. They've all been designed by either one person or a few people who have created these modalities using their own belief systems, their own thought processes, their own experiences, right? And those are unique to them through the eyes of their own cultures, the things they're passionate about, what they've experienced within their own bodies and minds, and ultimately what they feel calms and comforts them. And they've all used different scientific research. The research they felt targeted and explained their own specific difficulties, challenges, anxieties, right? So that's it's coming from one person, a few people, a group of people. That's not you and that's not me. So most of the time, these modalities of healing are brilliant, but the specific structure is not always going to work best for every single person. Some people it does, and we've talked about that, Kathleen. We're like, some people just dive in and they do it verbatim as exactly as it's instructed, and they have incredible results. But how often do we see that?
Right.
It's unique.
Mhm.
It's very unique. Go ahead.
Yeah. And I think unfortunately that sets up a standard. And just like we see in so many programs and sometimes even religions, there's like the standard of conduct. And if we fall short, you know,
Mm.
we're screwed. And
Mm.
so when we get this, like, do this as instructed, and here's the gold prize you win, and you don't, you're already like, oh no, I'm not doing it as instructed. So I don't know if I'm ever going to get there. And oh,
Yeah.
they did it and they won the prize, which is whatever it is, healing or whatever. And
Mhm.
it's definitely an issue, and that breeds comparison as
Mm.
well.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So they need to be adapted, right? The structure that works for you must feel best in your body. It must resonate with you. It must feel authentic. It's not, then you're not taking the shortest, right? What feels best in our bodies and what feels the most authentic, what we feel the most connected to, will create the most amount of change in the brain over the shortest period of time. So if we're forcing a square peg into a round hole, or whatever that saying is, that's not going to benefit us. That's not creating the most amount of change over the shortest period of time. And I think that might be the most important thing I say in this whole talk. If you're forcing something that doesn't resonate with you, then you aren't adhering to that very important concept. That is so important. What gets us there in the most authentic way is going to heal the easiest and the best. So it makes sense to take this modality of healing and apply it to your own life, your own experiences in a way that feels good to you, because you have your own emotions, your own passions, your own goals, your own experiences. And it's going, every modality of healing and program is going to speak differently to each one of us. I've seen it. When I was with DNRS, I coached so many people because I was the only full-time coach that they had at that time. So I coached so many different wonderful people, and I just heard it so often that this doesn't work for me, or that works for me and this doesn't. And it was never the same scenario. It was so specific to every single client that I had. It was amazing. So go ahead. Do you want to say anything before I
Yeah, and I
continue to
think
babble?
that it's interesting as a coach, because people are always like, well, tell me exactly what to do, as if there is this one way. And we all
Yeah.
want it to be just that one way. And that's just not how it is. It's just, you've got to figure out we always have to help that client turn it back to them, to figure out what their wisdom is. And that's really the job of a coach, is to be flipping it back to the client, to start to trust that they do know the way of what feels best for them.
Yes. 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 That really speaks to me in the coaching that I have done. If we look at our brains, again, bird's eye view, like structurally, our brains are pretty identical, right? All have the same components. But our life experiences create such immense differences in each one of our brains. And so our brains end up reacting differently to the same stimuli. So, like, a snake scares me, but other people have snakes as pets and wear them around their homes, right? Visualizations really didn't work well for me. There were other pieces of my healing that were like my main avenues to getting to that place of feeling rebalanced and finding homeostasis. Like, I focused more on my breath and a lot of yoga and talking to myself, that inner talk, that self-talk. So being in groups of friends in a calm setting where I could really be present, like really bringing myself into that present moment, that healed me significantly. That doesn't work for everyone, right? And so just kind of looking at how our experiences shape us. How could we all react, or how could our brains heal in the same ways to a program, just one specific program done the same way? It's impossible. If you really look at it structurally and scientifically, it just doesn't make sense. So then we put pressure on ourselves to do something that the brain now is associating with pressure and stress. I have to do that, and I have to do it this way, or else I'm not going to heal. And like you said in the beginning, we all want to be told what to do. We all want to feel like, okay, here's my path. I have all of the steps now that I need. I know exactly what to do. But then it doesn't really, we don't fit into it, or it doesn't fit into us. And so then we end up creating negative associations with this thing that's meant to heal us, right? It's that thing. It's like, and I've had calls with clients who are just in despair because I thought I had the answer and it's not working for me. And it's like, hold on a second, wait. It can work for you, but you need to like adapt it to yourself. Like you were saying, turn it back on the client. What wisdom do you have? Go ahead, Kathleen. I feel like you have something to say.
Well, this is such a profound point, because people think that it's the modality itself that is the healing. And what I try to also do is say, okay, for example, at DNRS, there's all these steps, but what is the goal of this particular modality? It's emotional elevation. that's what they're actually saying to practice. So what do you need to do to emotionally elevate? And Tessa, you said for you, being around friends, getting into the body, like you saw, you didn't mistake the modality for being the healer, and you saw actually what the algorithm was trying to get you to. And that's really what we want to do, is say, okay, here's the algorithm. Now, what is your way of getting into emotional elevation? Or for me, I also try to get people into body presence. What gets you into the body? There's all these different tools, but which one is the best for you? And yeah, so just wanted to throw that one out there.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah. And what it does come down to, like you said, emotional elevation, finding your calm, changing your associations, teaching our brains that scenarios in the past are no longer happening now and they won't happen in the future, right? Um, this is what should be targeted. We should look at, okay, what elevates my mood? And that's what I do in coaching calls, is like, okay, well, how does that work for you? What does that look like in your life? Because it's going to look so different in mine. So tell me what does that for you? And that's what the focus needs to be. And we all need to find the calm and the comfort through this conversation, I hope, knowing that if you do find your own ways to elevate your mood, to find your calm and peace in your heart, to change associations, if it doesn't look like the 10 other people in your WhatsApp group, that's okay. You should celebrate that, right? Because you're finding your own way through your own passions, loves, experiences, through what you know about yourself. And that's a big piece of the healing process too, is like learning what does speak to you, learning what feels good in your heart and your soul, right? We lose touch with that through going through the challenges with nervous system, limbic system imbalances. We lose that. So that's part of the healing too.
I love this, because you're describing, again, like restoring our sovereignty, which is part of why we end up with limbic disorder in the first place. We've abandoned ourselves in so many ways.
Yeah.
And the more that, even all of you that are listening, like when you're talking with your friends and you're feeling better and they're like, oh, what'd you do? Be careful to say, well, here's what I did, but really the purpose, like, oh, maybe I don't know, whatever it was you did, help, because they're going to want to take that same thing and go do it themselves. The more that you can be mindful, oh, I did this, but here's what it actually did. It helped me to change this, helped me to become more present in my body. And here's how I did it. And having conversations that are more about, how can we become more present? How can we elevate?
Yeah.
There is a question in the chat. Maybe you can answer this.
Yeah.
You see that? I don't understand what changing your association means. Why don't you explain?
Yeah. I was speaking generally just about like the different what word do I want to use?
Yeah,
Like
I need to, but I kind of want to stay on this call.
Hold on. Okay, go ahead.
So I was kind of just speaking about the different components of brain changing, like what changes the brain the most significantly. So one thing is elevating mood. The other is changing your associations. So like changing your associations to stimuli, changing your associations to triggers, changing your association to experiences in the past. And I was just speaking generally about changing your association. Sometimes I throw out terms like that and I don't really think that because I say them so often to my own clients. I don't realize that others may not know what I'm talking about. So I apologize for that.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, one of those DNRS terms that that's used. So yeah, and it's just about for example, changing your association to mold. that would be a pattern to work on. And how you do that, there's a lot of ways you can do that. Doesn't need to be a DRS method.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think that was kind of just the different ideas I wanted to touch upon. I just want to see if anything that I outlined I left out, but I think that was it. So if you want to open up some questions, or
this is your time, guys. You have Tessa, who's one of the lead coaches out there. Raise your hand or write in the chat box, and what comes up for you as we talk about these things.
and go ahead.
Go ahead.
There we go. It's a pleasure just to listen to you, Tessa. I really appreciate always your perspectives. And
Thanks, Cheryl.
certainly, it's just helpful because by very clearly stating it as you have, it brings, for me, it defines something that I intuitively experience but haven't quite spoken that way. And for me, I think that being kind of presented to lots of new tools and possibilities, which I did experience through DNRS and also certainly working with Kathleen, is such a huge array of information and tools. And so that it's actually, for me, it's been like I just went, well, there's no possible way I'm going to do all these things and put them all in and make it all work. It just can't happen for me. Maybe for some people it works that way. So for me, I've naturally gravitated to doing what I can and trusting that I'm learning a lot of new things that are very helpful, and trusting that somehow the more I just allow myself to receive and let it flow through, and trusting that those things that are going to be the mainstays for my own orientation and gestalt, so to speak, are going to be the ones that I'll hang with and remember. Otherwise, I can't remember all of the others. There's way too many. And it's been, it's carried me through. I mean, it's carried me through through the whole process for a few years now. And I found it very nourishing. And I think it is that. It's almost like, for me, it feels like osmosis, that there's a natural tendency that if I just relax and trust it, I find myself doing very rich, rewarding things that are absolutely changing my brain. But it's the ones that I feel most naturally attracted to. And I just had this experience recently being in a whole nother world for the last couple of weeks that I thought was going to be one way, and it's been a little bit different. And I haven't been able to do all of my usual routines, but nonetheless, it's changed. Everything that's gone on has changed my life. So that daily living, it's like I'm aware of the parts that are dancing around, and I'm doing my best to grab a hold of that, main adult self. And it's a real thing. It's like, it's very much real to me, and I can feel it. And it's kind of beyond the mental understanding. It's a part of my being that's already there. And anyway, so everything you're saying is seems very, very real and very true inside myself. And I think it's been a natural way that it's happened, but it's very helpful to kind of remember. I mean, just by you starting by saying, joy and calm, and doing what is flowing that helps you relax, and things like that are very helpful for me, because I tend to get very inspired and enthusiastic, a little overly. So anyway, I appreciate it. Thanks.
I love that. And I love hearing that you can take all of these tools and ideas and modalities of healing, and it seems like you just kind of listen to yourself and what resonates with you, what brings you that calm, that joy, or whatever you need at the moment. Maybe you don't need joy, maybe you just need to relax, and you can feel what does that for you and not feel pressured because other people find this other tool to work better. You'll always, if you listen to yourself, you'll always heal in the shortest amount of time. And you brought up such a good point that Kathleen and I didn't even bring up, that you can also run into the issue of having so many tools, ideas, groups. Like I have clients saying, I'm in 10 WhatsApp groups. I am doing laughter yoga 6 times a week and this type of round of practice. And I mean, oh my goodness, that's a lot. What really feels good to you? What do you think is presenting the most amount of change in your brain and in your body and in your soul right now? And that might change from this month to next month, right? We can't even get tied to certain tools, because I like, Cheryl, how you were using the word kind of flow and osmosis. It's true, because we kind of have to let them flow through us, see how they feel. That's not really working. It really worked last month, but it's not really working now. Okay, that's all right. I can be flexible. I can work with that. Right? The being lighthearted about that instead of getting worried and upset and, oh no, it's not working anymore. Something's ruined. I'm flawed. No, you're not. Your brain has changed, so you need something different, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Got Yvonne and then Chris have a comment or question.
Hi, gosh, thank you, Tessa. I am so grateful. Thank you, Dr. Kat. And this is a really important conversation. It really is, at least to me. I remember when I was doing DNRS I did DNRS for a little over 2 years before I found Dr. Kat with very little progress. And I remember, I had to sort of like push myself to do my rounds, and I would end up, it was sort of like this pull that my body was telling me, there's something in here, there's some emotions here that have to be recognized, and they have to be somatically embodied. And I would just like, I talked to every single freaking coach on DNRS, and everybody would tell me, oh, it's your limbic system, it's resistance. And in my heart, I knew in my heart that it wasn't it. But that's when I realized, oh my gosh, this is like, I was a total perfectionist. And so I think that, I don't know, I just have this feeling that sometimes I can't even put my thoughts into words just immediately. But I know that this conversation is really, really important because it's sort of like, first, it sounds to me like the truth. And second, it gives me permission, because I'm one of those who sometimes my parts need permission. I don't know why, but it gives me permission to listen to my intuition, to listen to my body, to listen to what's important to me, and to listen to my values, and live life in my values. I can do rounds all day, every day. And not that I do, but I'm just saying, I can do all rounds every day. And I can go take a walk for 20 minutes in nature. And that's what does it for me. Do you know what I mean? So thank you. Thank you so much, Tessa, for sharing this.
Yeah, walks in nature really spoke to me as well. And then I have other clients who have really no care for it, and that's perfectly fine, right? I I think that to speak to what Kathleen said earlier in the call, we all want to feel like somebody's telling us what to do, and like you said, like I have permission now. It's that little child inside of us. So definitely, when you come to a crossroads and you don't know what's best, ask yourself, what do I think will create the most amount of joy or calm, or what will elevate my mood the most? It doesn't matter what other people are doing or what somebody in a program tells you to do. What feels most authentic to you will always be the right answer. Always. So yeah, thank you for your thoughts, Yvonne. That was great. Kathleen, do you have anything to say about any of that?
Yeah, everybody right now, just take a breath. Like, I can do it whatever way I want to. I have permission. I just needed to know what I was aiming for: emotional elevation, calm, stopping the past association, but I get to choose. You get to choose. This is permission. I mean, Tessa's worked with hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of people. I don't know. Like, she's an expert. She's given all of you permission. You get to choose. You don't have to do it the way as instructed to heal. That, just let that sink into all of those parts, like Yvonne said. It's so, and each one of you, you can hear what your friends are doing, and you don't have to do what they're doing. If you don't like laughter yoga, you don't have to do laughter yoga. You don't have to do whatever, you don't have to. You get to do it your way. It's just, you get to choose.
I'm chuckling because I've had clients say, I can't stand laughter yoga. Like, why is everybody so obsessed with it? And some people love it. And I think that's beautiful. I personally never really got into it. It wasn't a piece of my healing, but I've had clients who think if they don't do it, they're not going to heal. I've actually had clients say that to me, and it makes me so sad. You don't need anything specifically to heal yourself. Not one, there's no one answer, and that's okay. That shouldn't make us feel like, oh my gosh, there's not an answer. Of course there's an answer, but you have to find it for yourself with guidance, right? You can find the guidance. Okay, you're not alone. But yes, the laughter yoga. I think that just made me chuckle. I saw that Andrea had a question up there, and I know some other people had questions too. So I just wanted to say, is that okay if I go into that really quickly? So Andrea's question was about perfectionism, and do we see that as a common thread? I see it so often and in so many different ways. And I know you do as well, Kathleen. So I'll just say that perfectionism is a common thread, because if we are perfect, we're not going to make any missteps, right? And when our brains are hypersensitized, like they are when we have limbic system stuff going on, our brains do not want us to make mistakes. So if you hear your friend is doing this thing and it's healing them, well, all of a sudden that's high stakes to your brain. That becomes really important, and we can become obsessed with it. Because our brain wants to do whatever is going to keep us the safest at any given moment. So yes, it is so common, because if we are perfect, well, we're going to stay away from the edge of that cliff, right? The brain goes right back to the very primitive, hardwired pathways that we used when we were hunting and gathering. The limbic system has that old wiring, and when it's hypersensitized, it goes back to using that hardwired, the primitive pathways. So yeah, don't mess up. And that perfectionism comes through in a lot of different ways. So maybe just kind of be aware if you're noticing a little bit of that in yourself, bring that into your awareness. Oh, I see what my brain is doing. It's wanting me to be perfect because then I won't make a misstep. But hold on, brain, we're not back hunting and gathering anymore. Like, we don't need to be on, like, in our perfect ways right now. It's okay. We're able to not do that thing that seems high stakes now. It's not high stakes. And just kind of talk yourself through why that's not high stakes and why your brain would want you to see it as that. Bring that into your awareness and it'll kind of snap you right out of it. Kathleen, you have anything to say about that?
I was just going to add, and kind of on the flip, there's the perfectionist to keep us from making a mistake. But I was talking with Aaron beforehand because he has some perfectionist programming, and he said his perfectionist is his saboteur because it's always trying to convince him that he's just going to fail. And so it's part of that, like, see, you can't do it, so don't even try because you'll fail. So there's it also can be just quit because you can't do it anyway, and to keep up that whole self-image of, I'm the bad kid, I can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that perfectionist self that, like, beats you up, and it's meant to be motivating, right? Like, it wants us to do something really well so that we succeed, so that we're staying safe, but it ends up sounding like we're just beating ourselves up. That inner critic can be so strong, and that can be a part of perfectionism too. I feel like we could go in so many directions just talking about
totally.
what that perfectionistic self can sound like and look like. Yeah, it's so common.
I see Chris has a comment, and then Tomo has a question, looks like.
I just wanted to say it's so great. I have to say this again, that you said what we feel most connected to will create the most amount of change in the shortest time. I have arrived here, and it's so wonderful and validating to hear this, because I'm another recovering perfectionist, and I started out in DNRS and did my rounds. I timed them for a year and I never missed one. And I think I even wrote at one point in the DNRS forum that if this doesn't work, it won't be my fault because I did this exactly as prescribed. And then I think when I started Primal Trust, I sort of threw the baby out with the bathwater, because I decided, I sort of, moved into my best life when I was out in the world, and I manifested a lot of great things in my life, and my rounds were feeling really kind of stale. And I just thought, I just don't need this anymore. But then I realized more recently that what I do need is to balance all that being out in the world with a lot more calm. And that goes along with kind of my journey towards my feelings and being in my body. And so it's been really nourishing that I just started. So after 3 months of kind of sort of doing around here and there, I just recommitted, and I do music, just really feeling the music, really a somatic experience for 20 minutes. And sometimes I do have visualizations and sometimes I don't. And I feel amazing and calm and peaceful and nourished when I'm done. And I look forward to this time twice a day, because I had so much resistance to restarting rounds, and now I see it really, really differently. So it's just so helpful, Tessa, that you sort of reaffirmed that here for me. So thank you.
Yeah. That like touched my soul when you said how good it felt and how you look forward to it. Yes, we should look forward to the things that are going to heal us. And of course, sometimes there's going to be like resistance that we need to break through, and it's not ever going to be perfect, but we should strive for that, right? We should want to look forward to the things that are going to heal our brains. So I'm so happy that you found something that feels so authentic to you. That's wonderful.
And wait, Tomo has a question.
Yes. Let me turn off the camera. Okay. I have a question about perfectionism towards others, and particularly my kids. And it shows up like this. So with the DNS and the inner discovery and Kathleen's alchemy and primal trust, I'm learning to let go of the control, like resistance to illness or symptoms or anything. And of course, I want to do that towards my kids too. And I noticed that I have been kind of like being over responsible towards their life, from like small stuff to big stuff. And right now my kids are 8 and 11. So some of the things they can do on their own, but some things they need a reminder. So I feel like, okay, I'm gonna be freer and I'm gonna create more. So basically like giving them the power to decide to do their things. But for example, like I say to my 8-year-old, it's time to go to sleep, or it's time to brush your teeth. But it requires sometimes 5 or 6 times of a reminder. And I see myself trying to like, you need to do it when I tell you to. And that resistance is so hard. And then of course that when I create that friction, then this shaming happens, and why can I not loosen up? So I feel this struggle between, I want the freedom and I want to give them the choices to pick what they want to do and when they want to do, but there's certain things has to happen, you know, like the self-care stuff or eating like the basic stuff. And I feel like I really need the guidance in this department.
Do you want me to answer that, Kathleen? Sorry, I was waiting for you to say something.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't sure because you were shaking your head a lot. I thought you wanted to say something.
If you have something to say, please do.
Well, yeah, I was just listening for what the limbic system was doing in that scenario, right? Having control feels safe. Having a controlled environment where kids are doing what they should do keeps them safe, which keeps us safe, knowing that our family members are safe and in control. So I think it's definitely really important to recognize that within yourself and within your nervous system, within your limbic system, when you're in those moments of recognizing, you know, this is not high stakes. This is not survival, and talking to your limbic system about that. Kathleen, I don't know how specifically how you coach, and that's why I was waiting for you to answer that first, because I'm not sure how you're guiding your clients to handle situations like that. It's probably different than what I would say, but just listening to what the limbic system is doing here, it wants to control. It wants to know everything is a certain way, and that's safe.
I love that. I think that's, see, I struggle with the same thing, Tomo. So I was curious to see what Tessa would say to this. I want to control them too.
Yeah, I think that's going to be very uncomfortable at first to let go of the control. And that's the part that we struggle with the most in many different situations, right? It's like the limbic system wants to control how long we are in certain places, where we go, what other people are doing. Well, hey, so that's the self-talk is the most important tool here. Let them struggle, let them fail. That's not easy for the limbic system, because when they fail, then we feel responsibility, right? Then we feel like you were saying, there's now there's maybe like arguments going on, or you feel friction between each other. Well, that's okay. That's going to happen at first. It's going to be uncomfortable. So I think you've got to be okay to find the comfort in the discomfort and let yourself, and that speaks to a lot of different situations where the limbic system wants control. That self-talk starts with, I know it's uncomfortable. It's okay that it's uncomfortable. This is where we start, and this is how we make change. This is how change happens. It's not comfortable at first at all. But here's the goal, and the only way to get there is to feel uncomfortable and let it be okay that it feels uncomfortable. Like, we're still here in our home, we're safe, right? Even like, touch the wall, touch your surroundings. We're here, we're okay. We're not being chased by a lion. Our kids might fail, but they need to learn to pick themselves back up. And me doing everything for them is not going to do that. So I think that's what I would say in a coaching call. And I probably get more specific, but I think that's where you start, and that's where it's difficult.
That's a really great answer. I love that you highlighted what was going on with the limbic system there. And, you know, and it's about your own control and safety. And that's what's being triggered. And then from there, you know, I mean, I know for me, I'm just, Tomo and I are so similar with our mothering. And I lost it on my kids last week, and I came home and I was telling Aaron, and I just messed up. I'm the worst. I teach this stuff all day and I totally blew it. I mean, you know, I was just, and he, you know, Aaron does a lot of tapping. So Aaron was like having me tap and talk about it. In the end, I was like, I felt out of control and I felt unsafe with what they were doing. And so once I could see that, I had compassion for my imperfection as a mother, because the situation was just triggering, felt out of control and unsafe. And we all do it. And so Tessa, you know, Tessa's such a great coach for helping that internal dialogue. It's definitely one of your strong suits, Tessa, to recognize what's going on and to highlight the dialogue that needs to be there to approach the perfectionist inside. And so in that moment, it's like, okay, I want perfection, but what I really want is control, because what I really want is safety. And then there's compassion that can come in.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great example about struggling with your own kids, because it happens to all of us. I mean, it happens to me. Like you do, I coach, and then I go and I lose it because my son isn't going to sleep and he just wants to keep nursing and I'm exhausted. You know, we have to have compassion for ourselves, because we're all imperfect and it's okay. Do we want to go to another question, or
any other questions, guys?
Yeah. Thanks, Toma, for your question.
Yeah,
That was
anyone else?
I don't know if there were any others in the chat.
No, I don't think so.
No.
Leela says, isn't it also that we want love, not just safety? Yeah, well, for me, when I've done the tapping, actually, when we've gotten to safety, you know, Aaron's like, and then what? And then I can love myself. I'll let the love in when I feel safe. So yeah. Or let them love me.
Yeah. When we look at the limbic system specifically, safety is always first, because we're designed to seek safety. And if we don't have it, then our brain doesn't let us do other things that would come next, like taking risks, which sounds like we're going and jumping out of an airplane, but taking risk to the brain is sometimes can just be walking out to the mailbox, right? So yeah, we're designed to seek safety first, and then everything else can filter in after that. Love would come next, Kathleen, like you said. once I tap for safety, then I can feel the love. Then I can experience life. Then I can be curious. Then I can be present. But always that safety first, because without it, there is no love, right? That's how, when the brain is hypersensitized, it actually goes to that hardwired, I need safety first before anything else can happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
Mm.
Any other questions?
I don't know if was Peggy, were
Peggy, did you
you
have one?
wanting?
Yeah. Well, I have a comment, then I have a question. This is so freeing. I think I'm the ultimate perfectionist. Last week I was at a lake house and I took my notebook and I took my stuff, thinking I'm going to have all this time to review the notebook, and I hardly did any of that. I just, but that's the way I take all that stuff along, and then I usually end up not using it. And now I'm not going to take it along at all when I go to the lake house. I'm just going to out there and enjoy. My second point is that I have a husband who's had some pretty serious medical issues, and I have always been careful about what I eat and what I prepare, and he is not careful about that kind of thing. And so I have this perfectionism thing with him. So this is an adult that I'm talking about. And I am working, I have really let a lot of that go, because as Dorothy says, we can't change anybody if they don't want to change themselves. But that perfectionist part in me still, runs around at various times. And I don't know if you'd have any advice about that. How do you deal with that when you're dealing with an adult who's got some serious medical issues?
Yeah. So have you decided within your prefrontal cortex, your logical and rational mind, have you decided what your role is in having him eat well? Or having him eat, whatever you think he needs to eat? Have you decided that?
I have decided that, but he doesn't accept that.
So there's resistance from him. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's tough, because we obviously want what's best for the people we love, but if they're resistant to it, then it ends up causing us stress, right? And then that's keeping us from our happiest and healthiest selves. So at a certain point, we have to decide where we want to go with that. Are we going to put ourselves first? Are we at that point where we know that needs to happen? And that decision, once that decision is made, then I think it goes right to what we were saying before with, okay, we've made this decision. We're putting ourselves first. We can only do so much. I did my best. I did everything I could. I think that's an important piece, is knowing you did everything that you could. And it sounds like you have. So as long as the limbic system knows that, then you can really help the limbic system to see, okay, now we're putting ourselves first. We have to. If there is that resistance, then okay, it's going to be uncomfortable, but it's okay. So I tell my clients to use phrases like, it's okay. It's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay that there's resistance. It's okay that this is happening right now and it doesn't feel great and I don't like it. It's important to label the negative emotions that you feel. I'll put this, Kathleen, in your community. I'll post this somehow. You'll have to show me how to do it. But there's an article that I love, and I always have my clients read, and it's called The 4 Rituals of Happiness. And one ritual is labeling negative emotions, and it talks about why we should label negative emotions, because it actually decreases activity in the amygdala. So when you're in a situation where your husband is resistant and you're feeling frustrated, label that. Talk to yourself about how you feel and why. And then you're calming the amygdala immediately, right? If we don't do that, then the amygdala is going to ring all the bells to tell the rest of the brain everything's not okay. So if we can stop it there. So that's how I always would coach my clients with that discomfort. It's like, label it, validate yourself. It's okay that you're feeling the way that you're feeling. It's okay. It's going to feel uncomfortable, but this is why we're doing it. And then you turn the situation into more of a positive, like, this is why we're doing this. This is good for us, right? We're strong. We're resilient. We can do this. And hopefully, maybe pulling away will help him feel like he has more of the power and more of a choice. And maybe then he'll want better decisions for himself. Maybe. But at least you could tell yourself that and hope that it does happen to help facilitate more of the change in the brain and to see that it's okay. Sorry, that was a mouthful.
No, that was very helpful. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah,
Very-
of course.
Mhm.
Good. Go ahead, Kathleen.
Oh, I just love that you're really showing what's going on in the limbic system behind perfectionism, which is, at first maybe it is feeling frustrated and all this, but it's ultimately like, I'm just wanting to feel in control. I'm just wanting to feel okay. So we label it, I feel frustrated. And from there, you might start to say, I feel scared because he's not eating the way I want. And I'm afraid that this will happen. And then what will happen to me? And, and that's one of the reasons why sometimes I tap when I'm trying to get to the bottom of what's going on, because then I can kind of keep labeling the emotion. And for whatever reason, I can go a little deeper when I'm tapping, so I can get to what's really happening. Because when the amygdala, I think when we can sense we're actually seeing the truth of what's in there, there's this relaxation, even if we are scared. It's like, oh, I'm just scared. I'm not a controlling bitch. I'm just scared.
Yeah. And when you tell your amygdala, or when you tell your brain how you're feeling, then the brain's not looking around for what it is that's causing you stress, right? It's like, oh, we're frustrated. Okay, I can deal with that. I thought maybe there was something coming after me.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah. I love that, Kathleen, what you just said.
Yvonne says, what about when you don't know what you're feeling? That's where I think it's more somatic, where you're just like the perfectionism. That was one of the things I was going to bring up today, is just getting in touch with the somatic feeling of perfectionism. And, it's part of, I am here now in this practice. I'm here with this feeling. I want to be perfect about this program because my friend is, and they're having results and I can't. And the feeling in me is like panic and angst that I keep falling short and I can't but what's the feeling? And maybe you can't get to the emotion, but even just that felt sense. And like, oh, there's probably a fear. I'm afraid of something. I don't know what, but I'm afraid. And it's just an old need for safety. I don't know. What do you have to say about that one, Tess?
Yeah, I've definitely had a lot of clients who say, I'm feeling a certain way. I don't know why. And so then I think it's important. First of all, everything you said, I think, was so relevant and right on, spot on is what I was trying to say. But I think, I think that when we feel that, like, that tension in the body, or that feeling in our chest or stomach, it's always somewhere in the body, right? when we have an emotion like that and we don't know what it is, it's always a feeling. So like you were saying, Kathleen, kind of tap into that and then ask your body to release it or shake it out, because it doesn't need to be there. And that's a discussion for a different time, but we are so programmed to react physically to stress, old stress, new stress, future stress that we're predicting. Our bodies are programmed by our experiences in the past, by society just saying, hey, stress is normal. No, it's not. It doesn't need to be part of our experience, right? So practice like taking a deep breath. Oh, I feel it like in my stomach. I'm clenching my stomach. Okay, let it go. It's okay not to feel stress. It doesn't make us unsafe. And I think when we do feel that stress and tension in the body, when we're squeezing, when we're tensing, it feels like we're doing something. Our brain feels like we're doing something with the stress and tension. We don't need to. And holding tension in our body only tells the brain, hey, there's something to fight. Or holding tension. I always used to hold it in my fists. I remember working in a school where I was teaching, and I was walking down the hallway, and it almost looked like I was holding a lunch tray. And I looked down at myself and I thought, what are you doing? Like your arms are like in an L shape. You look, what are you doing with yourself? And then I went, okay, I don't have to do that because it's not doing anything for me. So I would say if you can't find it, if you can't access where it's coming from, shake it out, let it out of the body, and remind yourself that it's not actually doing anything, even though the brain might think it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. We're often just reacting to an old memory structure that's being lit up and physically acting it out. It's just that awareness, like, oh, that's not happening right now. There's no reason to brace. I'm just walking down the hallway. I can let it go.
Yeah. Yep.
Well,
Exactly.
I think our time is done some. Tessa, I hope that you'll be back to have another discussion, maybe in 4 or 6 weeks or so, if you're willing.
Yes, I would love to.
Oh, good. Well, everybody, yeah, let's thank Tessa for being here. And Tessa, how can people get in touch with you? Maybe in the chat box or on the forum, I can write how they can get in touch with you for coaching and things like that, because you are still doing some coaching, I understand.
I am. Yeah, I can, I'll send you my link and you can upload it to your community. Yeah. It was so wonderful to be here. Thank you all for such a meaningful conversation and for being here and listening. And I would say, just as a last thought, trust yourself and think about how it feels in your body. And if it feels the best, then it's the right thing to do. So Kathleen and I give you the permission to take your own course and make your own decisions.
Yes. I love that. Yes, we all need, it's like Tessa was my authority figure at one point. When you guys all know the story where I came up with the mantra, my only infection is fear. I was preceded by an email from Tessa, our last coaching, where she basically gave me the permission to not believe the doctors and their tests. And I just needed an authority, an adult main personality to give me that permission. And then from there, that's where the rubber hit the road for me. So sometimes we just need that. And so I'm so grateful for Tessa giving me permission at one point to just trust in my own inner authority.
I'm tearing up over here. I'm glad you can't all see me. No, I'm just kidding. Wow. Yes, that was, it's an amazing thing to hear that I was able to do that for you. So thank you for sharing that.
Yes. All right, everyone. Love you lots. Thank you, Tessa. I will upload this recording to the additional guides, and we'll have another topic soon.
Yum.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.
everyone.